Reports have suggested that the UAE could be considering a potential exit from OPEC after nearly 6 decades effective May 1st. That removes one of the group's largest producers and a key source of spare capacity. What actually changed here? At the core, this is a mismatch between what the system allows and what the UAE is capable of producing. Over the past decade, the UAE has steadily expanded its production capacity. But its allowed output under the system has not moved in the same way. That gap between capability and constraint has widened over time. The UAE produces around 3.3 to 3.5 million barrels a day today. According to S&P Global estimates, this accounts for approximately 12% of total OPEC output, making it one of the group's largest producers. It has also built capacity closer to 4.8 million barrels per day, and is targeting about 5 million by 2027. Under the OPEC framework, it couldn't fully use that capacity. To understand the shift, it helps to understand what OPEC is. Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries is a group of oil-producing nations that coordinate how much oil they produce, with the goal of influencing global prices. Most members have state-controlled oil sectors, which means production is effectively a government decision. The US, for example, is the world's largest producer, but it isn't part of OPEC because output there is driven by private companies, not coordinated state policy. And that's where the tension sits. Individually, every producer wants to maximize output and revenue. But collectively, they agreed to restrain supply to keep prices stable. In the UAE's case, 2 pressure points have been building. First, quota misalignment capacity expanded faster than allowed production. Second, internal dynamics. While OPEC operates collectively, production strategy has historically been shaped by Saudi Arabia's role as the swing producer. Is this only about oil? No, politics also plays a role. Saudi Arabia remains the dominant voice inside OPEC, and the UAE has been positioning itself more independently, strengthening ties with the US and other global partners. Jorge Leon, head of geopolitical analysis at Rystad Energy, points out the UAE has been aligning more broadly outside the traditional OPEC framework. All of this is happening at a time when global attention on oil prices is elevated, especially with disruptions around the Strait of Hormuz. What does this mean for prices? Near term, there is not much additional supply impact. If flows through Hormuz remained constrained, the UAE cannot suddenly increase exports just because it left OPEC, so prices remain elevated due to the disruption itself. But longer term, once those constraints ease, the picture changes. The UAE would allow greater flexibility over output decisions. And as Jorge Leon notes, that weakens how effectively OPEC can manage supply, pointing to more volatile prices, with a potential downward bias over time. For OPEC itself, this is a structural hit. The UAE, along with Saudi Arabia, was one of the few members with meaningful spare capacity critical for stabilizing markets, as highlighted by the International Energy Agency. That buffer is now smaller. Countries have left and rejoined OPEC before, but none at this scale. This is less about a single country's departure and more about a gradual transition toward a less centralized global oil supply coordination regime. The key consideration going forward is not whether OPEC continues to exist, but whether it continues to function as an effective price-stabilizing mechanism. The question now isn't just what happens next. It's whether the system adjusts to the UAE or whether, over time, the UAE is pulled back into the system.